UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Zeid Hussein, is today urging the Philippines judicial authorities to launch investigative processes following last week's admission by President Rodrigo Duterte that he had killed people and encouraged others to do the same when he was Mayor of Davao. President Duterte told business leaders at the Presidential Palace on the 14th of December that he had patrolled the streets personally on his motorcycle and killed people. Then, in an interview with the BBC last Friday, he confirmed he had personally killed about 3 people during his term as mayor. Mr. Duterte served as mayor for 3 terms between 1988 and 2016. He has previously stated that the 3 people killed in 1988 were suspected of rape and kidnapping. The High Commissioner believes such acts directly contravene the rights enshrined in Article 3 of the Philippine Constitution. The killings described by President Duterte also violate international law, including the right to life, freedom from violence and force, due process and fair trial, equal protection before the law, and innocence until proven guilty. As a government official, if he encouraged others to follow his example, he may also have committed incitement to violence. The High Commissioner is urging the Philippines judicial authorities to demonstrate their commitment to upholding the rule of law and their independence from the executive by launching a murder investigation. The killings committed by Mr. Duterte, by his own admission, at a time when he was a mayor, clearly constitute murder. It should be unthinkable for any functioning judicial system not to launch investigative and judicial proceedings when someone has openly admitted being a killer. The President's repeated calls for the police, military and the general public to engage in a war on drugs, bringing people in, I quote, dead or alive, has fostered an environment of alarming impunity and violence in the Philippines. Since assuming the presidency on the 30th of June, reports suggest a total of over 6,100 people have been killed either by police or by vigilantes and mercenaries, apparently acting in response to the President's war on drugs. Excuse me. In his public comments last week, Mr. Duterte promised, and I quote, "For as long as there are drug lords, this campaign will go on until the last day of my term and until all of them are killed." The High Commissioner is pointing out that despite police investigating thousands of the deaths perpetrated by vigilantes and others, there is surprisingly little information on actual prosecutions. He also notes that children as young as 5 years old have been the innocent victims of this appalling epidemic of extrajudicial killings. Repeated statements indicating that immunity would be provided to police officers who engaged in human rights violations in the line of duty are themselves a direct violation of all democratic safeguards that have been established to uphold justice and the rule of law. In the High Commissioner's view, credible and independent investigations must be urgently reopened into the killings in Davao, as well as into the shocking number of killings that have occurred across the country since Mr. Duterte became president. The perpetrators must be brought to justice, sending a strong message of violence, killings and human rights violations will not be tolerated by the state and that no one is above the law. High Commissioner is also expressing his full support for last Friday's statement by the UN Special Rapporteur on Summary Executions, Agnes Callamard, calling on the government of the Philippines to lift a series of preconditions it imposed on her planned visit to investigate the alleged extrajudicial killings of suspected drug dealers.